Okay, so in this tutorial we're going to be looking at unwrapping the Sackboy model that you completed last week. Okay, so to do this we're going to use some different techniques to what we've learned previously. The techniques we looked at before were for kind of hard edge models, and this is kind of more relevant to organic forms. So how do we unwrap kind of organic shapes? Well, there's a couple of different tools that we use to do that, and that's what we're going to be looking at today. So the first thing I want you to do is to select the leg model and apply an unwrap to that. Then hit the open UV editor button, and basically these techniques are where you define your own cuts in the model for it to unwrap to. So these are used when you come across a shape like this arm or the body and head that aren't kind of cylindrical or box or planar or spherical. Like this is quite similar to a cylinder, but it's not similar enough for the mapping to work well. But let's just try it anyway. So we'll just select all of the model here and select Cylindrical Projection and hit Fit, and that's the kind of unwrap we get from cylindrical mapping. So I want you to load up your material editor, select a new sphere, load the checker material and set your tiling to say 1515, apply that and make it visible. So you can see, if you look at the unwrap it's given us, we've got a lot of errors on this area here, you know, larger squares and stretched squares and things like the base as well. So when you come across an instance kind of like this where you're not going to be able to really fix it with projection or unfold, then you need to use these options down here, peel mode and seam creation. Now this works by actually kind of defining seams on your model, which 3DSMax then uses to unwrap onto the 2D plate. Now the best way to approach creating seams is to think you need a top, you need a bottom, and you need a line between them. That's the kind of common way to approach it. So with this model we'll see we've got the top, the bottom, and then we'll need a line down the centre. We'll need a line from top to bottom. Now wherever you define that line, that's where the seam is going to be, so the kind of hardest bit to paint. So you're best off keeping that on the bit that's going to kind of be least seen by the user. So if we look at the Sackboy here, we can see really we want that on the inside of the leg there, because that's the place that's the least seen. So to define the seams, we come down to seam here. Now we've got several options. I'm just going to reapply different material to make it easier to do the seams. So the first one is seams, this option here where we can just click to add a seam. Notice the way it goes blue, that's to show that's where it's going to cut. Now for that you just click on an edge, and to remove an edge you hold Control and click, sorry, Alt and click, and that will minus off. Okay, so that's all kind of well and good. We can do this, you know, reasonably easily, but it's not the kind of fastest, especially when you've got a kind of more complex model. So you can also use point-to-point seams, and to do that you just click and click along to the next point you want it to go. By the way, if you're getting this green edge display, that's just the kind of Max's old version of doing that. So you turn those off by just turning off map seams there, so you can just see the blue cuts that we've made. The green ones are basically like the default ones as well, so they're often not correct, so normally you just kind of leave those off and just use your own. Okay, so we've got a top, we've got a bottom, got our vertical cut there, so now we can have a go and make this work. So if you come over to your peel options and just hit pelt map, just hit start pelt and then hit commit. Make sure you actually select the model first, so sorry, let's undo that. Okay, so we've got, what you need to do before you do pelt is actually select everything you want to pelt. So I'm just going to select the whole leg and then hit pelt map. Now this view is kind of really confusing at first, but basically all these points are going to try and pull out the model from the cut we've made there, so pull them out to flatten it out. So if I hit start pelt, you'll see it's actually done a reasonable job of it. So if I just hit commit on that, we can see that's actually tried to unwrap the leg based on our cuts. So there's one seam down there. If I go to edge mode and select these edges here, and just turn off the seam, you can see they're the ones where we actually drew the seam. Okay, so let's apply our checker and see how that looks. You can see now we've got a much more kind of even spread of checkers. We're still getting a few issues down here though. So to tweak it even more, you can select the leg and go Tools, Relax, and hit Start Relax, and you'll get a much better interpretation. You can also use by face angles, which actually you use a lot more, and then hit Start Relax, and you should get an even better result. Pretty much you always use face angles like 99% or 95% of the time. Okay, so we do still have a few problems down there, but you are always going to have a few on an object like this. So let's just go back in again and just try relax again. Okay, so I think that's pretty much the best we're going to get out of that. So you can see at the moment the top and the bottom aren't actually attached to this, so we can actually do that, and a kind of neat little trick to doing that, I'm just going to reapply the green material, is to go to seam mode, and at the moment the bottom and the top are separate bits because they're actually completely sealed off. See how that's a completely sealed off bit, and that is. But if you hold Alt and take one edge off each one, then suddenly this becomes one piece because there's actually a hole into each bit. So let's select everything again, and again hit Pelt Map, and you can actually get to relax from here, so we can hit Start Relax and hit Commit. And now let's have a look at how that looks with our checker map applied. Okay, that's looking pretty good. So we've got a nice kind of even shape to our squares. A few problems at the top and the bottom, but that's going to happen. We could try expanding this out to this edge to stop that from happening, but I think we'll just leave that as is for now. Okay, so that's the leg done. And because the leg should be instanced, you should already have the unwrap assigned to it. Okay, so the next thing we're going to look at is the main body. So again, apply an unwrap to this and open our UV editor. And again, we're going to define seams. You can see Max has already attempted to make seams, so we'll turn those off and just keep our own ones on. And then again, we can go to seam mode and add them in. So something you might want to think about when you're doing your seams is if your character is going to be viewed from the back, then try and avoid putting the seam at the back. So we'll try putting the seam on the side of the character, like so. And just to show you another little tool for what you can do with seams, you'll see here you've got edge selection to seams. So you can go to edge mode, say select an edge, then you can use the loop tools here, assuming you can loop each bit to convert it to an edge. So let's try selecting this edge here, hit loop, there we go, we've got a loop, and then we can do convert edge selections to seams, and that will convert it. So that's the other tool that you have. So it can be easier to do that because you've got all access to loop and ring. So edge selection, seams. Okay, use point to point seams again. And I'm going to go up the side of the head to the top. Make sure that's right. And we'll try going to edge mode and looping that loops, then do convert edge selection to seams. Okay, so the reason we've put this cut along the neck there is because there's no way that it's going to be able to do all of that as one piece. So putting that cut through there has split this off into two chunks. So let's try doing that then. So we select everything in the model and hit pelt, start pelt and then commit, and that splits it into the individual chunks. So you can see we've got the main body, the head, the top of the head and the base there. So that's something we should do straight away. And we'll minus a seam out of there, and on the top of the head we'll minus a seam out of there. So again, polygon mode and pelt map, hit commit, and that should split it into two chunks. Okay, so we'll try doing this main body first, and to do that we're going to use a slightly different tool. We're going to try the peel options here. So if I just hit quick peel, you can see it does a nice interpretation of the unwrap for us. So let's have a look at that piece with the checker material on. Okay, so it's got a few, you can see here the small square there and the big square there, so it might be worth just trying to relax this. Let's have a look at that there. Right, that's much better, the squares are much more even now. Okay, so the next piece is this head. So again we'll try quick peel, see what that does. You can see these, you've got a massive difference in square size there, so that hasn't done a very good job. So again we'll try relax on face angles. We'll see how that does there. Okay, that's not done a bad job, but just from experience I'm a bit worried about the mouth because it might have, yeah, if you actually zoom in you can see it's done some errors here on the mouth. There'll be some kind of overlapping issues there. So it might be best we actually cut the mouth as a separate piece. So let's go to point seam and define the mouth. There we go, it's not a separate piece. Select the head, we'll try quick peel. There we go, it's separated them off. And then we'll try tools, relax. Remember to look in just to see if there's any errors with the model. Yeah, we can see some crossover. So let's try edge angles. Okay, that's looking much better. See, again, with all this, you might need to come in and just slightly tweak some of the shape just to make sure there's no overlays. Okay, that's pretty good. So we've only got this mouth piece left to do on this, so we'll try quick peel. If that doesn't, see, we've still got some issues there, so we'll try relaxing that. Yeah, it's still getting a few problems, and I think if you just look at the shape, it's going to be difficult for it to actually stretch that out. So when you do have that, you just need to add in more seams. So again, edit seams. What I want you to do is just add so these bottom two seams. There we go, one there, and we'll try relaxing that. Sorry, quick peel first and then relax. That's looking, there you go, that's looking much better. There's now no, there's a couple of problems there. So again, you can pull these and just tweak them by hand sometimes if you need to, like so. Head and the body unwrapped. Now obviously there's differences in scale here, and I haven't put them on this texture plate yet, and that's because I'm just unwrapping each piece and then I'm going to do the scale and line them up on the template afterwards. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is the arm. So again, we apply Unwrap and open our UV editor. Obviously it's a complete mess to start with. So first thing to do is turn off map seams, and we'll just define our own seams. Now again, this shape is a bit more complicated, but we can see we've got a bottom, we've got a top, and then we just need to define our line down from top to bottom. So let's just try doing that first. So we'll try looping these. Might be easier than doing it all with point-to-point seams. So we'll then convert edge selection to seams. And again, loop that. Then edge selection to seams. And then we need to pick a line to cut from. I would suggest we have our seam on the bottom, really. Sorry, on the underside of the arm, because that's the place that isn't going to be seen as much. So again, point-to-point seam. Go under the thumb here and bring it down to there. So we've got a continuous line from top to bottom. Let's not forget to take out a seam on either part of this. Like so. Okay, so let's try that. So select all the model. We can try quick peel. If that doesn't work, we can try pelt. Try hitting relax. Try place angles. So we can see we're getting a few problems down here, and that's actually the thumb area. So it might be better for this if we actually add a few more cuts for the thumb to come out of. Again, if we look at the thumb, you can see it's actually like a mini cylinder. So again, for this we're going to need a top and a bottom. So let's try. There's our top. There's our line down the centre. Oh, and then we'll need a cut there as well. So we've left one gap there. So let's see how this works. So we select the whole arm, and we'll try quick peel. If we don't get a good result from that, then we'll try pelt. Okay, so notice that little polygon there. That's just where the thumb is, so we need to make sure we take one off there. Let's try it again. So pelt. Okay, that seems to be looking a bit better. There's that area, there's the top, and there's the thumb. So we'll commit that, and then we'll make sure we do relax as well. Okay, we've got a slight problem there, but I think we can tweak that manually, really. Like so. Okay, so let's check how that looks with our checker material. Yeah, all the squares are pretty much even size. A little bit of distortion going on, but that's what you'd expect from an organic shape like that. Okay, so the next thing we'll look at are the eye components. So we'll select one of the eyes. We'll apply an unwrap to that. Open our UV editor. And now this is a bit more of a simple shape, so we might be able to get away with something like planar, just flat on top of that. Let's try fit. Okay, that looks pretty good actually. So apply our projection. I'll just shrink that down a bit. Yeah, that looks good. So again, all I did was I look at the shape and I thought it's not really like a cylinder because it's so flat. It's definitely not a box. Again, it's not a sphere because it's so flat. So I thought, you know, it's going to be planar that. Another option might have been to actually flatten map that, or you know, obviously you can try the others as well, but I just thought, you know, projection's going to work okay there.